Hi, welcome to Throw Starfish. This is our podcast today on exercise.
Hi, I'm Ruth.
And I'm Penny.
And I'm Johnny.
So exercise, it's kind of like one of those things that we all know that we must do, but we all have quite different relationships with it. And just having a little pre-chat about it made us realise that we do too. So I was very fortunate that until about 4 years ago, didn't have to exercise. I was one of those naturally skinny people. I could eat. Yeah, did have to, exactly, key. Didn't have to exercise. I could eat what I wanted, and I was a regular, size 8 to 10 without doing very much. Drove everywhere, wasn't really a something that was on my mind. Whereas now I do have to start building exercise in, and I get exercise envy when I hear about Ruth, when Ruth's got a really good exercise regime, because it's so hard to start building up a little bit of a pattern.
See, actually, I have probably the opposite view to Penny. So I grew up always doing a fair bit of exercise, did bits of running as a child, always did lots of sports, netball at school, rounders, got into competitive swimming when I was kind of last few years in primary school, spent a lot of my secondary school swimming, not quite to the competitive level where it was 7 or 8 times a week, but enough to keep me healthy. Did kind of lots of probably exercise without really knowing what it was. Me and my friends who were at school joke that we kind of did exercise before it became this cool thing. So now it's this kind of like fad, this like fitness inspiration stuff. Like we did it where you wore your tracky bottoms and it wasn't cool at all. We just really enjoyed it. And as I've got older, I have not necessarily been able to exercise as much. So I still do. I swim competitively. I've started running. I used to work in a gym, so probably the best time where I got my exercise kind of balanced really well was when I was kind of 17 to 20-ish, 22 maybe, and I actually worked at a gym, so I was actually paid to teach classes, and I was a lifeguard, so I spent a lot of time at the pool. And as I've got a little bit older and busier, I don't always have the time. And so I've gone from exercising very regularly to feeling like I'm not exercising enough, but I probably am. Does that make sense?
I think you definitely are.
At times, I still think it's a little bit too sporadic for my liking. I go through phases, if I'm training to do a half marathon or a marathon, obviously I'll run a lot. If I'm competing, Johnny's pulling faces at me.
When I'm training to do a marathon, love it.
I've done it once, I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but, if I'm competing, then obviously I'll try and get in the pool more, but my work does get in the way, and I don't always, sometimes I don't feel like if I'm not getting in the pool for an hour and a half, 2 hour session, I'm like, oh, I've done nothing. Like, oh, my 20 press-ups this morning was nothing compared to getting in the pool and swimming for 2 hours. So I probably have the reverse view from Penny on exercise.
And I think I probably have somewhere in between, because I have always thought of myself as one of those very fortunate people who doesn't necessarily have to do exercise. I have really quite a high metabolism. I can eat and drink pretty much anything I want, and have never put on weight at any point in my life, and that has never even been a consideration of mine. But I think the reality is that I am, or at least have been, especially when I was younger, an active person. Like, obviously it was a different time and a different age, and the most advanced kind of computer that we had when I was a kid was like Commodore 64, which I remember getting. And that used to operate on cassette tapes, and you used to set the cassette recording and loading, and it used to take 40 minutes. So we used to go to the park and play for 40 minutes while it was doing that. But have always walked everywhere. I've always been active. I've always done stuff. My parents always took us out on walks and took us to places to go and do things. I've always been doing sports of different descriptions. I mean, probably when I was my healthiest as a kind of mid to late teenager, we used to play octopus, which is underwater hockey. As bizarre as that sounds, you have a mask, snorkel, flippers, a thing called a pusher, which is like a little stick that you push around on the bottom of the pool, a puck like you would have in ice hockey. and teams of 6 compete in a swimming pool. And I used to be able to, fair enough with flippers, but I used to be able to hold my breath and swim 2 lengths of the pool without coming up for air. So we were pretty active and we were pretty good at that, and we did do it competitively, which made it more fun. We won the Northern League with a goal difference of plus 99, I think. We were 1 away from getting 100, and we went down to Crystal Palace in London and competed and came 3rd in the national championships. So I have always been active. I always played football on my breaks and stuff. And even now, when I do it, I do stuff. I've tried going to the gym before, but I've never really made exercise the objective or the point of what I'm doing. It's always been a part of something I do for enjoyment anyway.
So my attitude to exercise has now changed. Now I absolutely get, in order to stay healthy, we must exercise, and I'm trying to build up to that. But I used exercise in a very different way when I was younger. So if we knew that the couple of handsome guys that we fancied were down at the gym, we'd suddenly start going down the gym and doing aerobics or free weights or just some kind of exercise in the hope that we might bump into our latest crush. And then it turned more into vanity exercise. So if I was going on holiday, I wanted a 6-pack, I would absolutely intense exercise for a period of time, and I would always find an exercise that would work the bit that I wanted to show off the most. So I did 2 weeks of squash because I wanted a pert bottom. I did. It's brilliant for your bum. I did boxing because I wanted nice arms, but I never done any of those things for health. Pilates I always found was the best to give me nice long lean muscles, so that became my go-to vanity exercise. And then as I've got older, and now I do need to start exercising for fitness, and trust me, I'm nowhere near doing it for vanity yet. There's a lot of work to do before I can go back to doing that. But so I now try to cycle, I walk wherever I can. And I'm now starting to build up, after an accident, starting to build up my ability to exercise. So part of my miracle morning is 60 seconds of intense exercise, which doesn't sound a lot, but I get very out of breath and very tired very quickly. But doing that every day, I can feel the improvement.
So I think we've probably given people a good idea of where we sit within this idea of exercise. When we come up with topics for the podcast, we have a lot of conversations, and we have, we throw ideas around, we question each other. Johnny, what really appealed to you about us talking about exercise on the podcast?
I think for me, it's that idea that it's another one of those things that we all feel obligated to do because people talk about it all the time. And my interest in talking about it when it was suggested was that I thought we might end up giving a more real insight into the relationship that most people actually have with exercise, and the desire and obligation that we feel on a regular, if not daily basis, to be active and healthy. But rather from it being from the perspective of a expert, and I'm doing my air quotes again, that is super religiously doing it. I go to the gym twice a day, and I do this, and I exercise for this, that, and the other, and I tick all these boxes, and I monitor every last morsel of food that I consume, and I endlessly post pictures of myself in a totally unvain way on my Instagram account. Is that actually exercise is it's one of those weird things where everyone knows how important it is, and it's got this wonderful tacit feedback loop in whenever you do it, it makes you feel great. But in spite of that, especially me personally, I don't follow through and do it consistently, despite that every bit of exercise I do makes me feel great, and I do it because I enjoy the activity I'm doing. I've never done that vanity exercise thing at all, and yet I still struggle to do it on a regular basis and fit it in.
See, if I don't actually exercise, I go crazy, and I think it's something inbuilt in me that I have all this pent-up energy, and I think some of it is the fact that I spend a lot of time working at a desk or in meetings. I just need to sometimes just explode to get this kind of, it helps me deal with stress, it helps me clear my mind. I'll quite often be swimming and then think, oh, I just need to, and sometimes if I've not been able to find a solution to a problem, it'll just suddenly come to me. And I think there is probably a little bit of an element of vanity, and I do think, oh, I wish I had more time to train, because I would be better and I'd be faster and I'd be able to eat even more, which is one of the key reasons I like to exercise. I like to eat. But I think there is this whole thing of, actually, there does come a point, if you exercise enough, where if you don't, you're bouncing off the walls.
That's what I find inspiring about people like you. By people like you, I mean people that exercise and are regularly committed to it and can't imagine not doing it. I work with someone really, really inspiring, a guy called Justin, who helps us out on Soup, and he now does ultra marathons and like these Ironman competitions. It's insane levels of exercise, and he's totally addicted, and I want to be addicted to exercise. And he and other people like him, there seems to be a point where something clicks, and all of a sudden people that I know that maybe didn't exercise before are suddenly avid cyclists or avid runners. They won't miss out on a park run, and they're aspiring to marathons and swimathons and stuff. And I wake up every morning going, please, is today the day?
Is today the day? I feel really... No, I totally get that. And I think sometimes, like when I talk to people and they go, oh, I've not been to the gym in a month or 3 months or 6 months. And I just, part of me is jealous, because I'm like, well, if I didn't exercise, I'd have more time, because it obviously does take time away. But if I don't train in a week, or, this week, for example, I've been traveling so much, I've made one swim session and I've gone for one run, and I feel like that's a failure. I might have done a bit of walking, I might have done other things, but because I haven't got, and I'm using the air quotes, Johnny's air quotes, I haven't had a big session in the pool, or I haven't gone for a run, or, I feel like I've not done enough. And I think sometimes that's the negative side of it, is you beat yourself up because you've not ran for an hour or something.
So I have confessions to make. I'm a little bit all the gear and no idea. So Johnny's laughing because he has actually witnessed some of the ridiculous spending that I do on things when I decide I'm going to do something, because I think that...
I've also helped you move house and found boxes worth of things going, what is this for? Oh no, it's all this really expensive special kit for this. Really?
Yeah.
How long did you do that for? Oh, about 4 days.
So I have the most amazing Pilates machine.
Where?
I'll show it to you.
I want to
It's
go on
amazing.
that.
Oh, it's incredible.
You can't miss it.
It's absolutely incredible.
And you
I
don't
know,
use it?
but
It's in the middle
I
of the
look
room.
at it. It's even got a vertical trampoline on. So since I hurt my leg, I can do no impact trampolining. Horizontal trampolining. I said that once. It sounds like something that's another form of exercise, but this is definitely the Pilates and trampoline kind. But you do it laying down on your back. So. Or another time I bought a Slam Man. He's amazing. You know that old thing, that scary thing in the hall that makes you jump?
Freaks me out every time I go downstairs. Yes, I do know that. Yeah.
And then one time I had to relocate for my work, and I had a ridiculous housing budget for the first 6 months on the company to make sure I could settle, and I had room to have a gym, so I had this big gym installed. I used it about 3 times in 6 months. My friends used it more.
That makes me so angry. I would love that. I would love all that kit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everyone uses that gym word, and it's kind of synonymous with exercise. Having done a 6-month gym membership and a year-long gym membership with a mate at the time, 2 different mates at 2 different points, I don't get how everybody does it, because I find it hands down one of the most boring things ever to do. Especially when you're on a treadmill and you have to stare at a series of screens which are on the most Dawkins awful detritus of television, and there's nothing you can do about it. And go in the evening, brilliant, here's Emmerdale or something, it's just on. And it's horrific.
I must admit, I don't get that.
And then, it's the same place, the same 4 walls, the same thing, it's just, I find it really, really boring. And the only time I've ever found that I've been able to exercise and do that thing that you're supposed to do is when I found something interesting to do. For me, I need to be occupied and engaged, and I do totally get what you were saying at the start about this idea of when you are occupied enough by physically doing things, you process things differently and you come up with ideas for stuff. But for me, I really need an interesting, engaging activity. Like for probably 4 or 5 years, I played football with my mates on an evening on Wednesday, and we competed in a football, just a little football league and stuff, and that was enough to engage me, to make me do it regularly and form that habit. But for me, I have to find something that I dip into and do quite regularly, but then leave gaps in between. So my slacklining, which is not overall that intense, but balancing on 50 millimeters of webbing strung between 2 trees is actually quite intense. And I also did that previously when I used to do lots of power kiting, but I'd only ever keep it going for a bit. But I had to have something that engaged me rather than just doing exercise for the sake of exercise.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing out of that is it sounds like you had a very similar gym experience to me. I haven't had a gym membership since I used to work in a gym, because for me the thing that got me interested with things like classes, and it was group exercising. It was, I used to get that from going on runs with people. I very rarely run on my own. I like to run with someone else, or I'll do a class. I think the thing that gyms do have, which are really valuable, are classes. It's someone else pushing you and saying, you can do better than that, lift that, push that, and I think classes and personal training, I do spinning, like that's really, really helpful. And I think if people are a bit daunted about doing exercise, they don't have to join a gym, but I'm sure their local community centre or their local church hall has some sort of class, and I think that's a really good place to start. For a good few years before I ran out of time, I used to do belly dancing, which is it was a great workout. It was lots of fun, and it was a real community thing. And I think that's what people, if people are unsure but they want to exercise, that's a really good way to do it, because you don't kind of realise you're exercising.
I wish there was a way of unlocking your motivation and sharing that. So I have tried a number of different things to try and motivate me. So there's this amazing 5-star hotel in the city called Mercure, and I used to live just around the corner to it. So I saved up for an annual membership, went in with the money, thought pay it all up front. Once I've paid it, I am going to go, and I'm going to be inspired to go, because it's this beautiful gym. There's a beautiful sauna and swimming pool, and lots of famous people stay there, so you never know, you might bump into in the pool. And I literally went for my induction and didn't go back.
I'm so
And you
cross
paid?
with you.
I'd paid for a whole year.
How much was that?
About 500 and something. I know. So it's an absolute mystery to me how people can be motivated to do. I know. But to do exercise, it's the one thing. If I could fix one thing about me, would be my motivation for exercise.
Can I suggest that next time you choose something that doesn't cost money?
Yeah.
Because it almost seems like what you do is
I buy my way into it.
You buy your way into it, and then as I've paid for my membership, I've
therefore
bought the
I've been
kit,
to the
that's
gym.
it, I've done it.
Yes.
And actually it's not about that. So a lot of the things I do, yes, I pay for my swimming membership, but actually, like I said, I haven't paid for a gym in years. I might pay for the odd class, but a lot of the stuff I do is free. I'll go running, or I'll go walking, or there's so many things you can do that are free or are quite cheap. And I would really suggest you do that, because I think it would inspire you more, rather than thinking I've done my bit, I've paid for it. I think actually you might exercise.
Actually do some stuff. That's the key thing for me. It's, like I said, it has to be engaging, but also, despite the fact I don't agree that we should all feel obligated and spend most of our time feeling guilty for not doing it, definitely do make the effort to integrate doing things into my day. So I might catch the bus into town to go to a meeting or something, but I'll always walk back. And when I walk, I walk at speed, shall we politely say, and Penny's pulling faces at me.
You exercise on the bus. So there was a piece of science out recently that showed that if we keep control of our balance and our skill of balance, as we age, we are less likely to fall, and we are less likely to experience other bad health incidents. Johnny practices his balancing on the bus, and I always laugh at him. I can't help it because he's got his I'm balancing face on, and other people are looking at me a little bit weird because I'm kind of looking at Johnny going, oh, he looks really cute. I know that's his balancing face.
It's such an important thing though, and there was recently it was a BBC programme out, and they said that someone who can balance reasonably well, basically you stand on one foot and you close your eyes, and it's how long you can keep your balance for without falling over. Someone that can balance well could apparently balance, if they've kept up their balancing skills, for about 6 or 7 seconds, and someone that balances not very well can only do 3 or 4 seconds. So we did this challenge on a Sunday, and I can balance for over a minute with my eyes closed because I practice my balancing on a slack line all the time. And I suppose it's part of my nature, but I always do stuff like that, like stand on the bus and try and balance. I tried it on the tubes the other day, and you can't see out the front window, and it's really, really hard. But I think it's about trying to integrate into your daily life some way of doing it. And I walk all the time on the way back from everywhere at the speed I walk with my bag, which I also take pretty much bordering on the kitchen sink with me when I go places, which means I already have a really heavy bag with me.
If Johnny fell over, he wouldn't be able to get up. He'd be like a little turtle.
Look, I prefer the term hero in a half shell, thank you very much. And I also got a exercise bike that was a bit knackered from a charity shop for £5, and I actually built a cycling desk in the studio,
which again I'm very jealous of.
You can't do everything on it because you do have to concentrate, and I did also get at the same time a kind of self-powered treadmill that's not electric for £5 as well, which is a little bit harder to balance and type on, but it does mean that I can, when I make the effort to do it, and it has been tricky recently before it got cold, which is basically too hot, and I was sat at my desk sweating to death. But it means that you're doing 3-4 hours of exercise a day, which, tracking on kind of MyFitnessPal, you're chalking up sort of 600-700 calorie burn that there's no way I'd ever be able to fit that in. And it's just cycling at a constant speed, but it means you're being active. And I did 60 kilometres over the week. I would never be able to find the time to do that. And I think that's the key thing for me, is that along with loneliness when you get older being detrimental to your health, a sedentary lifestyle that we end up in unless you make the effort to just do things rather than going, I'm going to be a gym buff or do this kind of marathon run. You've got to move around, because there was a fad for the whole standing desks thing, but it doesn't matter. Standing still or sitting still just doesn't work for you, and it's so bad for your health because the human body has evolved to move. Like, we were transient beings that moved and walked everywhere. We're not designed to sit still at all.
And I think the key part of that is actually what you count as exercise. And so many people don't think they've... And I am one of them. I have to remind myself, well, actually, if I'm cleaning, that's exercising. You know, if you're hoovering, that's a great form of exercise. If you're, you know, wiping windows and dusting and things. And what we think of as exercise is, you know, the gym time, the sport. Oh, I went for a run, I went for a bike ride. But actually, if you just up your activity level across the day, if you take the stairs, if you do all those things you're supposed to do to keep active, you know, you make sure you're walking, you're
going out and washing the car, going and doing a bit of gardening.
Exactly, gardening, all these sorts of things. They're really great ways to keep fit, and it's not just about getting in the pool and swimming or going to, you know, a class. It's actually about just getting the activity level up. And I think that's one of the things that people forget, is they think, well, I don't do a sport, I don't run, I'm not very active, but actually they are. And maybe Penny, maybe you just clean loads and like do gardening, because I don't know, you don't seem to like classes.
I'm always worried I'm gonna like do something wrong. I don't like being watched when I'm exercised, so I respond really well with one-to-one training, but in a class I always just feel like I've got that Bridget Jones anxiety. If you remember in the film, one of her first films, she like flies off the running machine. I'm just one of those people that thinks those things are going to happen to me in public.
Out of the water and sometimes in the water, I am really clumsy, so I totally get that. But I also think you just sometimes need to ignore that.
Just man up, don't
Hey,
you? Woman
I did
up.
dancing. Like, I am really uncoordinated.
Okay, so how are we going to summarise this? It's a jumble.
I don't know whether it's a jumble. I think we've reached a conclusion or a focus in some way with this, which seems to be a regular conclusion of ours. It's about finding the thing that works for you and not feeling obligated to do a certain thing, and focusing your energy, especially your mental energy, on the things that you are doing rather than beating yourself up for having not done it.
I think one of the things people need to think about is actually sometimes we put that need to exercise above other things that are actually more important. So I think if you're fairly active, you're walking a bit, you're taking the stairs, you're in your everyday, you're being as active as possible. And when you exercise, you're taking away from doing something else valuable like sleep. So I have friends who, instead of going to bed early, they'll go to the gym or they'll get up early, and actually you can see them across a few months getting more and more tired and more drained because they believe they should be doing the exercise. I would actually ask people that they should look at what they're doing, look at the balance across life, and think, actually, is exercise, I think everyone should be doing it, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. And actually I'm trying to personally prioritise things like sleep over exercise at the moment. And I would just encourage others who might feel that they're not exercising enough or that they're over exercising to do that as well.
Yeah, I've probably done myself an injustice actually, because I pretty much walk everywhere. I live 15 minutes walk from the city centre, go in there quite often. If I'm having a bad ME day,
It's only 10 minutes at my speed.
at your speed, yeah.
Running behind Johnny.
Yeah, like Johnny is like my personal trainer when it comes to walking to meetings. He goes really fast.
I have to think about it to walk slower. It's just natural walking speed.
Yes, I always look like I'm his. I don't know. Like he's in charge of me, and I'm keeping 10 paces behind or something.
Looks like you've done something naughty. You're feeling guilty.
So yeah, I think, and I love what John is. I'm a bit jealous. So how our studio works, I can't actually fit a cycling machine or running machine under my desk. So I do get a bit jealous when he's sitting there working away.
But don't worry, in your 5-minute break from your Pomodoro, you can go
Trampoline.
downstairs and you can use your Pilates machine, which I'm shocked is currently downstairs.
Your vertical and or horizontal trampoline.
Next time it's got lots of stuff packed up on it at the moment. Next time you
I can't wait. I can't believe you've got a Pilates machine.
Oh, Ruth, you will love it.
It's got things that you pull off it, like it's got...
God.
People that have seen it that don't know that it's a Pilates machine look at it scared as if it's some kind weird
Fetish machine. Black leather with a movable seat and straps.
It's got like the cuff things that you have to put around your hands. They're like black furry. Whoever
like
designed
furry
it.
handcuffs.
Yeah, it's the Pilates Aero, and it looks like a sex machine.
So on that note, I think we're going to...
Note, bombshell.
On that sex is exercise.
Yeah.
It is. Agreed. Second bombshell.
Okay.
In conclusion.
Hope you enjoyed. In conclusion, I wish I could do it more often. I am going to start practicing what I'm preaching, and I'm hoping this 60 seconds a day habit challenge is going to reintroduce me to a more healthy attitude towards exercise, and I'll keep being inspired by Ruth.
It's no pressure, Ruth. I think it's... Yeah, if there was anything, just... Find something you enjoy and really appreciate all the different types of exercise, not those that you would think as stereotypical, typical exercise.
Yeah, definitely find something you enjoy. For me personally, I would suggest also something that results in something happening other than just the exercise having taken place in the time that I've done it for. And also, and I suppose this relates to the podcast we did on success, don't aim for those mythical pictures that are made up largely digitally
Photoshop.
Before you see them online as your goal, because you end up being forever disappointed with not getting there. And actually it's about the endorphins that get released, the mental headspace that you end up getting because you've exercised and stopped from what you were doing, and the direct feedback loop of how it actually makes you feel that is the goal, rather than
that's what's addictive.
Yeah. as well as the actual chemicals that get released, which are measurably addictive.
Yeah, it's not about aiming for something to look. It's about the feeling and the sense of achievement.
Yeah, and finding something you can enjoy while you're doing it, rather than
Yeah.
going, I've got to get to the end of this.
So until next time, I've been Penny.
I've been Ruth.
And I, as always, have been Johnny.
Goodbye.
See you next week.
See you next week.